on the assignment elaborate plate tectonics model. So if you're watching this video, you're already in this assignment. You're in the plate tectonics folder in the science, and you are on elaborate plate tectonics model. So how can you create a physical or virtual model that helps you convey your understanding of how plate tectonics work, or how tectonic plates work? So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be writing a proposal, okay? We're going to be writing out the way that we're going to show a physical or virtual model that conveys our understanding of how plate tectonics work. So let's take a look at the directions. So in this task, you will, 1, take a look at the examples below of various physical and virtual models. So let's just do that real quick. So this one is a Lego model, and this actually shows a transform boundary. So what's happening here is this is actually on tracks down below, little Legos to make a track, and then one plate moves this way, and the other plate moves that way. And then what's going to happen to this land here is it's going to start to shake, which causes earthquakes, and that is a transform boundary example. Let's go over here, and this is an example of, well, let's look. If we have one plate hitting, let's get a different color here. If we have one plate and then another plate, and they're hitting each other, that's known as convergent boundaries, and they're hitting each other so much that one of the plates is actually going down underneath the other as the other one continues to push, which is known as the subduction area. The subduction area here is actually pushing up and allowing sort of magma to flow up in the form of a volcano. Scroll down here. We have the example of a divergence boundary. So they're showing the two different plates. So we have one plate and then another plate. And since they're diverging, one's going that way and one is going the other way, which is allowing for magma to fill the gaps in between the plates, and then when it cools, it's going to be new land. That's just out of Play-Doh. And this one is a bit more complicated, but it is literally showing the arrows of a convergent plate. Now, one thing I would be asking for is to name the plate. You can see they made the arrows out of clay. They're right there. I'm just highlighting them over them with a pen. And then they created the subduction zone, and they labeled it because the clay went underneath the subduction zone. And that was an example of convergent boundaries, or boundaries that are pushing together. Scroll back up top. Then you want to select one of the, well, excuse me, we got to go to number 2. Brainstorm ways to create a physical or virtual model of how plate tectonics work. So we just looked over some examples: clay, Legos, cake. I want you to come up with some ideas that you could use for your project, okay? Write them down, and then step 3 is select 3 of the best ideas from the brainstorming phase. So the more ideas you have, the more you can select from. Then, number 4, you're going to decide which of the 3 will be the most doable. So talk to your parents about this. Talk to anybody else that's at your house that maybe older, like auntie, uncle, grandma, grandparent, older brother or sister. Ask them from your ideas what sounds more doable based on the resources that you have at home. And then number 5, just choose the best one out of 3. Okay, once you're done with that, you're going to do what probably people are having the most difficulty on, which is actually writing the proposal out. So you're going to write 3 to 5 paragraphs elaborating on your proposal idea. use the Hawk Talk cards. I have them on the Google Classroom. If we click over here, you can see that I have them on Google Classroom. I'll actually go ahead and I'll move them to the top so they're just at the top for everybody to access. So use those, please, 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 please. Let's get back to the directions here. So we're using the Hawk Talk cards, green, yellow, and red. We need to make sure we pose, okay? So we're going to restate this question as a statement. So how can you create a physical or virtual model that helps you to convey your understanding of how tectonic plates work? I can create a physical or virtual model that helps to convey my understanding of how plate tectonic works by creating what? And what are you going to do? Then clarify using the yellow Hawk Talk cards. And then please see the video on how to write a more in-depth proposal above so that you can actually follow along and score the correct points on this assignment. So down below, we're going to be looking at the criteria, so what you're going to be graded on. So one is the pose. Did you answer all aspects of the question? Did you clarify? Okay. Did you fortify? And was it long enough? Was the depth long enough? Or excuse me, deep enough? Did you explain everything that there was? Okay. So pose. If you want a 3 or 4, the question has to be rephrased and have a complete idea. Okay. If you want a 4, you have to have no spelling errors in that. If you want a 3, there can be a few. A 2 is the question was rephrased as a statement, but the idea was not complete. So a lot of people just like they'll write out, "Oh, I can create a virtual model to show my understanding of how plate tectonics work by period." And then they just put a period and they don't complete their thoughts. That'll get you a 2. 1, the question was only rephrased but not addressed, okay? So they could rephrase the question but they don't actually address it. So pretty similar to 2. Clarify, 4 or 3. The pose statement has at least 2 relevant sentences. For a 3, it has at least 1 relevant sentence, okay? So did you clearly explain your idea using multiple sentences? All right, the pose statement has at least 1 relevant sentence that explains. So if you want a 4, your pose statement is going to be 2 sentences long. If you want a 3, it's going to be 1 sentence long. No big deal. 2 means the pose statement has at least 1 relevant sentence that explains original thought in more detail, and there's probably a lot of spelling errors in that. So that's a 2. If you don't want a 2, do the same thing, but make sure to edit your work. Fortify. Did you strengthen what you said by adding evidence or examples? Did you fortify from the examples that we gave in here or from the text that you read? Okay. A 4 means that you did it for, you have one piece of evidence, an example, okay, and there are no spelling errors. You have the same thing for a 3, but you can have a few spelling errors. A 2 means that you have one piece of evidence or an example for each clarification statement, but you have a bunch of spelling errors, okay? 1 is just there's no attempt. Depth, okay, this is really easy. You can read the whole thing, but it's basically, if you want a 4, you need 4 to 5 paragraphs. If you want a 3, you need at least 3 paragraphs. If you want a 2, you need less than 3 paragraphs, okay? If you want a 1, less than 2 paragraphs, okay? Make sense? Any questions, feel free to email me. And you can check this video out down below. This will be